Have you ever felt like the forest was watching you? Like every step deeper into the woods was a step closer to something ancient, hidden, and dangerous? If you've ever hiked alone and felt that gut-deep sense of unease, this story might hit a little too close. Welcome to my viewers. If you enjoy chilling real-life horror stories from the wild, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. What I'm about to share happened during the lowest point in my life, and I came way too close to not making it out alive. I'm a big hiker. At the time, I was making my way across the US after a devastating breakup with the woman I thought I'd marry. Caught her cheating with one of my closest friends. Yeah, a full-on betrayal from both ends. I was 31 and needed to escape. Utah had always been a bucket list state for me. Something about its endless forests and remote terrain just called to me. I chose Utah's Wasatch Cache National Forest as my stop, somewhere I could disappear for a bit and clear my head. What drew me to that forest was the seclusion. I'm not into crowded trails or the sound of strangers talking. I like to be completely alone out there. I found a remote, unnamed area on the map and drove down a narrow access road until I couldn't go any farther. I parked, stepped out, and took a moment to breathe in the silence. I had no bars on my phone, just how I like it. After checking my pack and mentally marking my starting point, I began my solo hike into the woods. I get that hiking alone in unfamiliar terrain is risky, but that's what makes it thrilling. I always download offline maps beforehand, because GPS still works without service. And no, I didn't get lost. I wish I had. That would have been easier to explain. What actually happened still messes with my head to this day. My destination was a summit with a supposedly beautiful lookout point, 3, maybe 4 miles uphill. The terrain was rough, so I wasn't moving fast. About an hour in, it started drizzling. Light rain, but enough to annoy me. I can't stand hiking in wet clothes, so I decided to turn back. When I finally spotted my car in the distance, I was more than ready to call it a day. But as I reached it, my stomach dropped. All 4 of my tires had been slashed. Not flat, slashed. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone had been out there, watching, waiting. I spun around, scanning the tree line. Nothing. The only sounds were the rain hitting the leaves. I was stranded with no service. Walking 20 miles down that access road felt like suicide. I'd be exposed the whole way. The only option was to hike back up the mountain to reach higher ground and hopefully get a signal. It was a gamble, but a better one than staying by the road. So I turned around and went right back into the forest, heart pounding. About halfway up, I heard it rustling behind me. About 40 yards back, it would start and stop when I did. I didn't dare turn around. I picked up the pace, hoping I was faster than whoever or whatever was behind me. The sun had begun setting, and the forest took on that eerie twilight glow. I was drenched, nerves on edge. Eventually, I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing. But that didn't mean I was alone. The trees were too dense. Anyone could be out there, just out of sight. When I finally reached the summit, I was relieved to find I had a signal. I didn't stop to take in the view. I called the police, gave them my location, explained the slashed tires and the feeling of being followed. I also told them I had AAA. They said help was on the way, but I still had to get back down. In the dark, through the same woods where someone had already proven they didn't want me there. Going back the same way was too risky. I'd be predictable. I figured I'd loop around the side of the mountain and cut in from a different angle. I hadn't studied that side of the forest as well, but it was my best shot at avoiding whatever trap might be waiting. I opened the map on my phone and started navigating the long way down. For a while it was quiet. Too quiet. I was almost starting to think I'd imagined it all, until I heard it, a twig snapping to my left. I turned. Nothing. Then another sound behind me. I wasn't alone, and it wasn't just one person. There were multiple people out there. I started jogging, not full out sprinting yet, but fast enough that I wouldn't be easy to catch. Then I stumbled across something that almost made me scream. A hidden campsite, logs arranged in a circle, old embers in the fire pit. Someone, or some group, had been camping out here, hidden deep in the forest recently, and they weren't far. I pushed forward, heart pounding. Then came another sound, this time to my right. I spun just in time to catch a flash of movement, a foot disappearing behind a tree. That was all I needed. I broke into a full sprint. I wasn't quiet anymore. I didn't let them hear me. I needed out. As I ran, the forest exploded with noise. Footsteps, branches breaking, breathing. They weren't hiding now, they were chasing me. I couldn't stop, couldn't even think. At one point, I glanced over my shoulder, and nearly there were at least 6 figures, all dressed in white, sprinting after me. I was exhausted, soaking wet, and running for my life. Then through the trees I saw it, my car, and just behind it, a police cruiser. I pushed harder, legs burning, and collapsed next to the officer's car. I could barely breathe. I turned to point behind me, but they were gone. Just like that, the officer told me AAA was on the way. I gave him the full report, and what he told me chilled me even more. He said that parts of Utah's national forests, especially that one, are known for secluded religious groups and off-the-grid cults. It's not uncommon to encounter woods folk in those remote areas, and it looked like I had stumbled right into the wrong one. He said I was lucky, and I believe him. I still can't make sense of it. If they didn't want me there, why not just say so? Why slash my tires? Why stalk and chase me like an animal? It's something I think about way more than I should. And I know one thing for sure. I'll never hike alone again. Today's story isn't about ghosts or monsters, at least not the kind you read about in books. This one is about something that happened to me personally, something that shook my confidence in the one place I've always felt safe, the forest. I'm not going to call myself an expert hiker, but I've been hiking passionately for decades. I've traversed all the major trails across the US and have explored more than 75% of the national parks in this country. After a while, I started needing more than just marked trails and photo ops to feel that thrill. That's when I picked up a strange little hobby, scanning Google Maps satellite view for large, unnamed stretches of forest, then planning excursions into those areas. Unconventional, sure, but the added risk gave me the kind of rush I craved. At least, it used to. To stay safe, I developed a method. I carry a set of homemade biodegradable trail stickers. I slap them onto trees as I go and peel them off on the return trip. It's my breadcrumb trail. Clean, simple, and effective. I've never gotten lost, not even once, until Dudleytown. For those unfamiliar, Dudleytown Forest in Connecticut is an abandoned settlement with a dark reputation. Urban legend claims it's cursed. Paranormal investigators, thrill seekers, and ghost hunters all talk about it like it's America's own Blair Witch spot. Me, I've never believed in that stuff. I figured the stories were local folklore mixed with urban decay, and the forest was technically off limits. But I've been in plenty of those before, since I'm from New England. The drive wasn't too bad. I arrived around noon, wanting to get in and out before sunset. Right away, the forest felt different. I'd heard stories about the total silence, but I didn't expect it to be so absolute. No birds, no rustling, not even the hum of insects. It was like the air had been vacuum sealed. The silence didn't just hang, it pressed. Still, I kept walking, placing stickers, reminding myself I'd been in dead forests before, but this one felt wrong. After 20 minutes, I found myself irrationally hoping I'd run into a deer, a hiker, even a raccoon, something alive. but the forest stayed frozen, like it had been abandoned not just by people, but by time itself. Eventually the stillness became almost comforting. Then I heard it, a long, wavering wail. It was soft at first, like it didn't want to be heard, a low, mournful sound, somewhere between an animal's cry and a human moan. No wind, no movement, just that sound floating in from somewhere ahead. It made my skin crawl. I froze and listened. It didn't repeat. Maybe it was the wind through the branches, but there was no breeze. A wounded animal possibly. But the way it echoed didn't make sense. I kept walking, faster now, reassuring myself it was nothing. Then came the carvings. The tree in front of me had gouges in the bark, deliberate marks, like runes or symbols, not letters, not initials, just chaotic patterns. I scanned the trees nearby. Same thing. Maybe 20 or 30 trees, marked with bizarre etchings. That was my cue to leave. I turned around and began collecting my stickers on the way back, my pace quickening. But then I saw it, something I hadn't passed on the way in. Up ahead was a mound of moss-covered stone and an opening just large enough for a person to crawl into. A cave, or a den, either way I would have noticed it before. Then I realized something worse. My trail markers, they were too low. I always placed them at shoulder height. Now they were down by my waist. Someone had moved them. Panic surged through me. Whoever, or whatever had been following me, wanted me to walk straight into that cave. And I almost had. I bolted. The forest seemed tighter, darker, like it was actively trying to slow me down. I ran, crashing through branches, not caring about direction, just distance. When I stopped to catch my breath, I pulled out my phone. 1 bar, enough to bring up my car's last known location. I started walking in that direction, but within seconds the signal vanished. Then the wailing returned, louder this time, angrier. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It felt like it was chasing me. I sprinted through the trees, lungs burning, heart pounding. Every few seconds I looked over my shoulder, nothing. But the sound never faded. It stayed right behind me, like it had locked onto me. After what felt like an eternity, I burst out of the tree line, nearly tumbling down the hill where my car was parked. The moment I cleared the woods, the sound cut out like someone flipped a switch. I didn't stop to look back. I jumped in my car, locked the doors, and peeled out of there without a second thought. I haven't hiked since. I've tried to explain it to myself. Maybe it was a hermit, some unhinged person who lives in the woods and messes with people who come too close. Maybe he used a whistle or some kind of speaker to throw his voice. But even that theory doesn't hold up. How could someone move silently through a forest, alter my markers without me noticing, then keep pace with me while emitting that unholy sound? If anyone out there has a better theory, I'm all ears. Just don't go into Dudleytown. Some forests want to be left alone, and I think that one does more than most. If you're new here, settle in. Tonight's story is about how an innocent childhood hangout turned into the most terrifying night of my life. What began as a harmless walk through the woods ended in a chilling discovery that still haunts me to this day. This is the night I learned some places are cursed and some things you're never meant to see. When I was younger, my house was the unofficial hangout spot for my friend group. There were a few reasons for that. My dad had a huge man cave in the basement, stocked with a borderline endless supply of beer. And my parents were surprisingly chill about us hanging out down there, even letting us drink in moderation, So long as we didn't get stupid. We lived on a decent patch of land, and our backyard backed right up to a stretch of dense woods. If you went through those woods, you'd eventually reach a dirt road, and across that road was the old reservoir. That place was everything to me. Growing up, I'd cut so many holes through the chain link fence over the years that the Water Commission just gave up patching them. It was technically off limits, but for me, it was freedom. A secret place where I could think, escape my parents, or just be alone. I swam there, smoked there, cried there. It was beautiful and dangerous in equal parts, and it's honestly the only thing I miss from those days. One evening, a few friends and I, Chester, Rick, Jasper, and Hassan, were down in the basement playing pool with some aggressive EDM pumping in the background. Chester, always full of reckless ideas, suggested we hike through the woods to the reservoir. We were all kind of bored anyway, so we went for it. The sun hadn't set yet, which made it seem like less of a dumb decision. Rick and Hassan pocketed a couple of beers for the walk, and we took off into the woods, navigating muddy trails from an earlier rainfall. After climbing through the usual gap in the fence, we started the long walk to the far side of the reservoir, a quiet stretch we called the beach. It took us about 20 minutes to get there, and that's when everything changed. Hassan pointed silently to our right, toward a dark figure moving slowly out of the woods. We went quiet and watched. The person was dragging something heavy in a large black garbage bag. At first we joked it could be anything, but the closer the figure got to the water, the more serious we became. That bag was bulky and difficult to move, like it was weighed down. I remembered stories, rumors about bodies being found in the reservoir. Suddenly it didn't feel like a joke anymore. We crouched behind some brush as the man knelt beside the water with the bag. Just when we thought it couldn't get any more disturbing, 3 more people appeared, 2 dragging more bags, and 1 carrying a kayak. Watching them load the garbage bag into the kayak and row to the center of the reservoir sent my stomach plummeting. We didn't need to be told what we were witnessing. The man returned to shore twice more, each time with another bag. Then, like a cliche from a horror movie, my phone rang. The obnoxious ringtone shattered the silence. The 4 figures stopped, turned, looked directly at us. We ran. Rick shouted that they were chasing us. It felt like we were moving in slow motion, branches cutting our faces, boots slipping in the mud. I was the first to reach the fence, but in my panic, I couldn't find the hole. The others caught up, and we were full on screaming now. Rick spotted it just in time, and we scrambled through, one after the other, just as we heard something or someone crunching through the brush behind us. We didn't stop running until we were in my backyard. Hassan called the cops immediately. I knew we might get in trouble for trespassing, but I honestly didn't care. I was just glad we were alive. The cops came and listened to everything. They searched the property, and to my horror, they found a fresh set of muddy footprints leading up to my backyard fence. Footprints that weren't ours. I swore up and down I hadn't jumped my own fence, and the cop believed me. A few days later, it made the news. Divers had recovered 3 bodies from the reservoir. No arrests were ever made. My mum became paranoid after that. She said she saw flashes in the woods at night, like a camera. She swore someone was out there watching. We moved not long after that. I hadn't thought about it for years, until last week when I came across an article about a teenager drowning in that same reservoir. Seeing that headline brought everything back. That place has a darkness to it, something evil, and I can't help but wonder what else might be sitting at the bottom of that water, waiting to be forgotten. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more creepy true tales, and drop a comment if you've ever had a chilling encounter like this. Stay safe out there, and stay out of the woods.